Lekker, hoe's it? Wat sê die ouens? So I was reading articles online and I bumped into this hashtag, Voetsek Megan. Yeah, right. And I was like, yeah, what the fuck is hierdie? So I went onto Twitter and I was reading some of the comments, reading basically the story of a new podcast by Meghan Markle. I forgot the name of the podcast, but I think she was speaking to the tennis superstar Serena Williams. And in that podcast, she was basically saying very crazy things, such as one of the bravest things she's ever done is come to South Africa. And she was speaking about how she was staying in a housing unit. And when people were showing the pictures, it was actually a lekker mansion in Cape Town. And then some of the other things she was saying, there's something that the Africans call imbelego, when they put the baby on the back and then they tie them up with a cloth. And she was basically calling that a mud cloth. Then apparently she also lied and she said something like when her and her husband Prince Harry went out on some outing in Cape Town, there was some fire or something in the house where their little child Prince Archie was sleeping. But apparently the people that were staying there said there was no such story, there was no such fire, and also it was warm at the time, so it wouldn't have made sense why the heater was on. South Africans are not happy. I can tell you that now for free. When you go onto Twitter, you see Voetsek Megan was one of the top trending hashtags. Apparently, it's riding on from international hashtags such as Meghan Markle is a liar, Meghan Markle is a narcissist, and a lot of South Africans are basically saying she's a racist, she's a bully, and she must stop fucking lying about South Africa and she must never come back here. I just thought it was very funny, and it was a reminder that South Africans can always unite, bro. You know, the Springboks might have lost yesterday against the Wallabies from Australia, but South Africans will always unite against a common cause, such as lying Americans that are busy married to these ginger British monarch oaths like Prince Harry. If anything, I also blame Prince Harry as well for picking this girl from America who's older than him, divorced, who's basically not what the royal family was looking for. And people are waiting for Queen Elizabeth to basically come back and say, I told you so. I told you about this little girl from America. It's coming to spoil everyone's party and going around talking nonsense about other countries in the world. So yeah, man, I just thought I'd share that story. Voetsek Megan. She's not gaining any followers the way I think she wanted. And a lot of people are basically saying she's so self-absorbed, man. And she's only about herself and constantly wanting to be a victim. It's about being black or about being American or about being old. And now she's saying wild things about other countries that have been very welcoming to her. So people are not happy. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say was I'm getting tired of the racial issue in South Africa. And this is me, not speaking on behalf of South Africans. I'm not speaking on behalf of black people. I'm 36 years old now, and my consciousness started when I was 18, when I got to varsity, started reading books, started reading books, started engaging on political history, started engaging on general history, started reading about black consciousness. And since then, I've been paying closer attention to the struggles of abantu abamnyama in South Africa. And I've tried my best to see how can I add on to the fights that have been led by so many black leaders in the past. It's culminated in the me setting up the Buy Black movement with a couple of other great people and great leaders. We were looking to say, or I was looking to say, you know what? When I look at history, what I see is this. If abantu abamnyama were to take their money and buy from businesses owned by abantu abamnyama, if abantu abamnyama were to take their labor and give it to black-owned businesses, that would fundamentally and revolutionarily transform the state of black people's lives. I did that for maybe 3 years or so. And from there, with some of the responses we got, some of the people I engaged, I realized black people are not the same. Khona abantu abamnyama that are willing to work in this country. Khona abantu abamnyama that are black conscious and that are passionate about supporting black, aggressively so. Then there are black people that prey on this pro-black bullshit. And they go then and they exploit other black people. So if you look at, for example, some of your black celebrities, a lot of them pretend to be black when it suits them so they can make money. Can go all the way to the highest levels, such as Beyonce Knowles and Jay-Z. At some point, they were riding this wave of black is beautiful and what. It's great for them, but the bottom line is how much of their money circulates in black communities, how much of their money goes to black initiatives? Or is it just a matter of them using it so that black people can give them support, and then they take that money and they spread it to their friends? Understandably, their friends who happen to not be black. In South Africa, of course, you've got, I mentioned the famous ones. You've got Casper Nyovest, Bonang, you've got Somizi, you've got Theo Baloy at Batu, you've got Likau at Drip, and other big celebrities who support a lot of foreign-owned brands. It's their lives. It's their money. It's not for us to tell them what to do. But if some people are buying their sneakers, if some people are buying a certain alcoholic beverage, if certain people are supporting certain music, and it's under the guise of pro-South African or pro-black, that's hypocrisy. If you're just selling a brand, it's fine. And look, I can argue, maybe even specifically for people like Theo and Ulikau, I believe that they are building brands, international brands. And I'd like to think by and large, they're not saying, buy from me because I'm black, buy from me because I'm South African. I think they're just pushing great businesses. But a lot of the messaging from their supporters and their fans is pro-black and pro-South African. Meanwhile, the mindset is not there. So I realized Otaki are not the same. All the way up to politicians. Politicians, ANC politicians, Cyril Ramaphosa and the guys, they live in these white neighborhoods that are run by the Democratic Alliance. They send their kids to private schools that have a majority of white kids. They live a largely white life. They have shares in these big companies that are supposedly called white monopoly capital. They have business interests offshore in other countries. And yet they go and they tell black people, vote for us because we're black. Vote for us because we care about South African. Vote for us because we understand the people and we come from the struggle. And just recently, the commander-in-chief of the EFF, Julius Malema, was saying, or was defending his visit to Ibiza, where Adriano Mazzotti, one of the initial funders and one of the supporters of the EFF, I believe his daughter was getting married. And he was saying, to quote what Smat Ngonyama said from the ANC back then, I did not join politics to be poor. I understand what that means. It means just because I'm a politician doesn't mean I must suffer, doesn't mean I mustn't go overseas, doesn't mean I mustn't have rich friends. Don't bully me. But in the same breath, it sounds hypocritical to the people that they claim to represent. Because now if the next kid is doing business with white people, is working for a white company, is supporting the DA, they're the first people to be like, you're a sellout. So as a black kid who has freedom, I didn't vote ANC back then so that I can have the freedom to associate with white people, to work for these companies, to have shares in these companies. It only works when it's you. That's hypocrisy. So this is basically what I wanted to say. I'm tired of the racial issues myself. I get tired being on Twitter, and I realize I'm constantly arguing with a lot of ignorant people. Part of what triggered me last night and made me tired was there was a tweet basically saying Zimbabweans must go home and fix Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans must go home and fix Zimbabwe. Something that's been said, it's something that I support. If there's something wrong with your country, go home and fight for it. Go and help it instead of whining from outside. Or if you are whining from outside, show that from outside you are doing your best to acquire skills and resources to send back home to push the fight. I obviously, as I've done before and I get dragged, I asked in the tweet, random, do you feel the same about South Africans who leave poor provinces to go and work in the cities? For example, if you look at Amaxhosa from the Eastern Cape, that move to Johannesburg, that move to Cape Town, that move to Johannesburg, how do you feel about them? Do you feel they should also consider going back to the Eastern Cape, which is poor, which is corrupt, and go and fight for the Eastern Cape? And I got attacked, as per usual. I wasn't defending Zimbabweans or illegal foreigners in this country. I wasn't saying what the tweet was saying is wrong. I was agreeing with it. But I was saying, do you feel the same? Then people say ignorant things like, yeah, but South Africa is a country. You can't compare it with Zimbabwe. And I'm like, because of colonial borders? Are we not saying that if a piece of land somewhere is struggling, and the people from there leave to go to better pieces of land that have been worked by other people, those people should go back and fix their space. And I'm like, this is the same mindset that leads to families breaking up. Because you run away from your family responsibilities, because your family has different values, because they're poor, because they're struggling to go and live in the suburbs and have a good life. You're not going home to fight to uplift your family, to make sure that your family is doing better, to build infrastructure and economic systems for your family. You're happy to run as far away from possible. And then you blame Zimbabweans for doing the exact same thing as you. Just because there are no borders, you don't need a visa and a permit, but it's the exact same mindset. I fundamentally wish, even if it was just a project, I wish people could be forced to stay in spaces of the people they vote for or support. I wish Ingonyama Trust, as a piece of land for KwaZulu, were to be ring-fenced, isolated, and the people that live there are forced to follow the king, forced to pay tax to the king, and then the king has to build the systems, the infrastructure, the schools, the everything on that land. And the people that don't enjoy tax from ANC, IFP, DA, EFF supporters, etc. I wish DA voters could be forced to live in DA spaces. I wish ANC voters and ANC leaders were to be forced to only stay with their ANC supporters and then run those systems completely on their own. I wish in America, the Republicans and the Democrats, the almost half of the people that voted for Donald Trump got to live in Donald Trump America, the half of America, and then the other side live on the 50% owned by Joe Biden. In that way, you get to follow the leader that you want instead of us being forced to follow leaders we don't want just because they won the majority vote. That's not democracy. That doesn't make sense, especially when your leaders who want you to vote for them are going out staying in spaces governed by the opposition. I wish we could do that experiment. And it's just something that I guess I'll speak about and think about. But yeah, man, it's a Sunday. Hope you guys will take care of yourselves. Yantanda akulu. Have a lekker Sunday, man. I just fucking love all of you. And again, futek to Meghan. Futek, Meghan. Yantanda bafethu to keep it strong. Keep it going. Keep it flowing. Like the water. Penuel the Black Pen.